Hi Year 10, welcome to Biomes Lesson 7. Today we'll be looking at reasons for ecosystem management protection and why the Great Barrier Reef has been deemed critical in regards to its conservation. There are four main reasons why we believe ecosystems should be managed and protected. These are in red, which means they're definitions, so you will need to write them out in full. The first two we've already looked at a little bit, utility values and intrinsic value. Utility value is all about the economic wants of humans, how an ecosystem can facilitate economic growth and has a measurable dollar amount. Intrinsic value is all about a place deserving to exist because it deserves to exist. It might be aesthetic or pretty, it might have spiritual value, and we should protect it just for those reasons. Heritage value is all about being able to provide a glimpse into what the past was like, how an ecosystem has changed or stayed the same over time, and what that means for people and animals living there. The last reason is to maintain genetic diversity. Ecosystems need genetic diversity in order to survive. They need their food chain to be in action, and humans need to be able to benefit from this as well. Ecosystems provide all sorts of elements for humans, such as medicine, food, fuel, and without maintaining that genetic diversity, we wouldn't be able to access these things. So, specifically looking at the Great Barrier Reef, why do we need to protect it because of its utility value? Well, we know that the Great Barrier Reef is worth $56 billion, and if we were to stop protecting the reef and let it degrade and die, then that $56 billion would be lost from the global economy. It would mean people would lose their jobs because tourists would stop coming to see the reef and have a significant effect on Australia. So, purely for selfish economic reasons, it's important that we manage and protect the reef. The second reason is intrinsic value. The Great Barrier Reef is one of the most studied and universally loved reefs. It's recognised as an area of unique natural beauty and is an Australian icon recognised on a global stage. It's really important to maintain intergenerational equity, which means the reef today can be seen by us as it will be by people in the future. We should protect the reef purely so that they have the enjoyment of it that we have had today. The Great Barrier Reef has specific heritage values for the traditional inhabitants, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. These people connect with the land in different ways to what we do. They connect in it very much historically and spiritually, and it's important we maintain it so they can connect with their heritage and understand who they are and their customs. It's also important to manage the reef because of its unique geological heritage, where we can see how the reef has changed over the last 50,000 years. The last reason we say that ecosystems should be protected is in order to maintain their genetic diversity. The Great Barrier Reef is home to a very wide variety of species, including over 400 species of coral and over 1,600 species of fish. It's important that we maintain this reef, not only so that all those species can coexist together, but also so that we as humans can benefit from the reef as well. The different plant and animal species within the reef act as the medicine cabinet of the sea, and provide humans with all sorts of medicine being used to treat cancer, arthritis, bacterial infections, and many other diseases. If we were to stop protecting the reef, many of the species would die out. Other species would lose their predators and they would be too populated. This would damage the reef's ability to provide people with some of those services. The Great Barrier Reef was one of the earliest sites to be named a World Heritage Site and is a global icon. Unfortunately, the outlook of the reef isn't very good at the moment, and it has been listed as critical in its conservation outlook. There were mass coral bleaching events in 2016, 17 and 2020, which significantly declined the health of the reef. Now, some of the pressures that are put on the reef that are damaging it and causing it to be critically endangered are things that can be managed at a local Australian level. They're things like allowing tourists, fishing and boating. However, some of the things that are impacting the reef are out of the Australian government's control, particularly climate change, which has to be universally treated in order to minimise its threat to the Great Barrier Reef. What I'd like you to do is to go to Schoolbox and read page 4 to 7 of the Great Barrier Reef 2020 Conservation Outlook Assessment. The document itself is a bit longer, and if you're really interested, I would encourage you to read the whole thing. And it talks about all the different threats that the Great Barrier Reef is facing and what specific action can be done to minimise those threats. The two key terms you'll be looking at today when it comes to answering your questions are justify and account. Account means to provide reasons for. Why is something happening? The reason for this is the reason for the Great Barrier Reef being in critical endangerment. Due to coral bleaching, the health of the reef has declined. You're providing reasons for something happening. Justify is about supporting an argument or conclusion. This would be beneficial. It is important. If we don't do something, a negative consequence may occur. It's all about providing reasons in favour of something. So these are the two key terms you'll need to look at when it comes to answering your 2 questions today. There are only 2 questions you have to answer, questions 20 and 21, but they are longer questions, and I really want you to make sure you look at the line count given to you in each question and try and meet that line count, because these sorts of questions that will be worth higher marks in your assessment task, which means they require longer answers. That's it for today when it comes to our Great Barrier Reef content. Please make sure you submit your due work for today, mark your answers, and then I would really like you to spend some time this lesson working on your case studies. It's really important you don't neglect these, as these are also accessible. And I've had a quick look on some of your Google Docs, and some of them are a bit lacking in detail. So please spend some time this lesson doing those. When you've finished your case study or have done some work on your case study, you're done for today, and I'll see you next lesson.